George Foreman carved a boxing legacy with devastating power and unbreakable spirit. His $300 million fortune, grand Houston mansion, and bold car collection reflected his triumphant life. From martial to global icon, his journey blended grit and grace. I traced his path, a fusion of fury and faith. Join us to explore his story. Boost the channel by hitting like, sharing with friends, and subscribing for more dazzling tales. About George Foreman's early life and education. George Foreman arrived on January 10, 1949, in Marshall, Texas, and grew up with parents J.D. and Nancy. He dropped out of high school and joined Job Corps. About George Foreman's personal life. Foreman wed Mary Joan Martelli in 1985 and raised 10 children, all sons named George, plus 5 daughters. Earlier marriages shaped his family path. About George Foreman's lifestyle, properties, vehicles and net worth. George Foreman, a two-time champ, amassed a $300 million fortune through boxing, endorsements, and the George Foreman Grill. His 1970s fights and grill sales fueled his empire. About George Foreman's health. Foreman battled a 1973 brain hemorrhage and 1980s obesity, yet lost 315 pounds by 1987. Dementia struck in 2015, and he passed in 2017 at 68. Friends praised his resilience. About George Foreman's faith. Foreman embraced Christianity in 1977 after a vision and founded a Houston church. His faith guided his comeback and ministry. About George Foreman's early career. George Foreman turned professional in 1969 after winning Olympic gold and quickly became one of boxing's most feared punchers, winning his first 37 fights by knockout. His overwhelming strength and aggression stunned opponents. The destructive 1970 victory over Joe Frazier announced his arrival as a dominant heavyweight and laid the foundation for an historic championship run. About George Foreman's rise to fame. In 1973, Foreman demolished Joe Frazier and Ken Norton to capture the unified heavyweight championship, shocking the boxing world with his raw power. Although he lost to Muhammad Ali in the legendary 1974 Rumble in the Jungle, the fight elevated his global fame and solidified his status as a boxing icon. About George Foreman's career peak. From 1970 to 1974, Foreman's career peak produced an astonishing 40 knockouts in 41 victories. His crushing wins over Joe Frazier and Ken Norton highlighted unmatched power and intimidation. Friends, trainers, and rivals lauded his ferocity, physical dominance, and fearsome presence inside the ring. About George Foreman's later career. George Foreman launched a remarkable comeback in 1987, defying age and expectations. In 1994, he stunned the world by knocking out Michael Moorer to regain the heavyweight title at age 45. He retired in 1997 with a 76-5 record. Colleagues admired his resilience, discipline, and reinvention. About George Foreman's business ventures. Foreman licensed the George Foreman Grill, transforming it into a global phenomenon that earned him an estimated $138 million. He also endorsed brands like Everlast and invested in real estate ventures. Colleagues praised his business savvy, recognizing him as one of the most successful athlete entrepreneurs in history. About George Foreman's awards and achievements. George Foreman captured the heavyweight championship twice, won Olympic gold in 1968, and earned Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year honors in 1973 and 1994. His record as the oldest heavyweight champion remains unmatched. These achievements highlighted his longevity, power, and rare success across different boxing eras. About George Foreman's public image. Foreman's devastating punching power made him a boxing icon, while his unlikely comeback won admiration from fans worldwide. Over time, his friendly personality and humor reshaped his public image. In 2017, tributes poured in celebrating his achievements. Associates admired his authenticity, warmth, and genuine connection with audiences. About George Foreman's influence and legacy. George Foreman redefined what was possible for heavyweight boxers, inspiring modern power punchers such as Deontay Wilder. His championship win at age 45 set new standards for longevity and belief. Colleagues frequently praised his strong faith, perseverance, and enduring influence on boxing history. About George Foreman's philanthropic work. Foreman founded the George Foreman Youth Center in Houston to support at-risk youth through education, sports, and mentorship. He also raised significant funds for local charities and community programs. Friends shared stories of his quiet hospital and neighborhood visits, revealing a generous spirit behind his success. About George Foreman's advocacy and activism. George Foreman championed youth boxing initiatives and anti-violence efforts, promoting discipline, responsibility, and positive direction. He supported community outreach programs rooted in faith and mentorship. Associates praised his passion for helping young people avoid destructive paths and build productive, hopeful futures. About George Foreman's other ventures. Foreman expanded his influence beyond boxing by starring in films such as Play It to the Bone and authoring books including by George. His ever-growing grill empire further extended his reach worldwide. Friends admired how he successfully blended sports, entertainment, business, and storytelling into a lasting, multifaceted career. About George Foreman's controversies and challenges. George Foreman faced several defining challenges, including his shocking 1974 loss to Muhammad Ali, an unexpected retirement in the late 1970s, and difficult tax and financial battles during the 1990s. Rather than retreat, he rebuilt his life through faith, discipline, and perseverance. Friends and colleagues praised his resilience, humility, and remarkable ability to rebound from adversity. About George Foreman's writings. Foreman authored God in My Corner in 2006, offering deeply personal reflections on faith, failure, and redemption. The book resonated widely with readers seeking inspiration beyond sports. Through interviews and social media posts, he continued sharing uplifting messages. Associates lauded his sincere, motivational voice and his openness in sharing lessons learned from life and boxing. About George Foreman's persona. Foreman's powerful persona defined him as boxing's bold voice and captivated with energy. Friends noted his wit and blended martial roots with fame. About George Foreman's hobbies and interests. Foreman enjoyed grilling, family time, and ministry. He collected memorabilia. Quiet youth support reflected his vibrant spirit. Thank you for diving into George Foreman's story. If you enjoyed this journey, smash that like button, drop a comment, share with your squad, and subscribe for more dazzling content. Tell us which icon you would love next.